Hi YA nerds! Reading Rue here again with another book to read. This time I've picked Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Ooh, that's a lovely, there we go. Spoiler alert, I guess. I love Laini Taylor to death. Any book that you read by her is a good book to read by her, in my opinion. Her first series that I ever got into was the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series. Highly, 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 highly recommend it. I may do a review on that one at some point eventually. Right now I'm just trying to run through anything that's kind of popular. So we're going to talk about Strange the Dreamer today. Strange the Dreamer came out this year, I'm pretty sure in April 2017. Highly anticipated it. I was so excited about it. And I mean, the artwork. Look at this book. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I'm pretty sure the book is 500 pages. Not necessarily a quick read, but definitely a great read. And I'll read to you guys the plot now. The dream chooses the dreamer, not the other way around. And Laszlo Strange, war orphan and junior librarian, has always feared that his dream chose poorly. Since he was 5 years old, he's been obsessed with the mythic lost city of Weep. But it would take someone bolder than he to cross half the world in search of it. Then a stunning opportunity presents itself in the person of a hero called the Godslayer and a band of legendary warriors, and he has to seize his chance or lose his dream forever. What happened in Weep 200 years ago to cut it off from the rest of the world? What exactly did the Godslayer slay that went by the name of God? And what is the mysterious problem he now seeks help in solving? The answers await in Weep, but so do more mysteries, including the blue-skinned goddess who appears in Laszlo's dreams. How did he dream her before he knew she existed? And if all the gods are dead, why does she seem so real? In this sweeping and breathtaking new novel by National Book Award finalist Laini Taylor, author of the New York Times bestselling Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, bestselling, the shadow of the past is as real as the ghosts who haunt the citadel of murdered gods. Fall into a mythical world of dread and wonder, moths and nightmares, love and carnage. Welcome to Weep. Again, huge fan of Laini Taylor, so I may be biased when I give this review, but I was so excited when I heard that this book was coming out. I literally screeched when I found out about it, like a pterodactyl. Freaked out, was so excited. I love the protagonist. He's Laszlo Strange. He's very smart, not so handsome guy. They mention it a couple of times. It looks like his nose is like crooked or something. I mean, he's got interesting characteristics, but other than that, he's not handsome. So I felt for him, not fell for him. He's a librarian, just like me. He always has his head stuck in the clouds, a thing I can also identify really well with. He's teased incessantly by his peers, something that we don't have in common. You know, I'm not obsessed with magical cities, just like he is. I just like stories about them because why not? They are the most interesting stories in my opinion. You know, and the premise of this book was incredibly intriguing when she first announced it, because it didn't sound like what I just read to you guys. I remember I got a little postcard at my job about it, and it was something about this girl falling from the sky. And actually, it turned out to be like the first page of the book, so it was very different. This woman's falling from the sky, her skin is blue, and she literally slams into a fence, and it pretty much breaks her back in half, and she's just left like hanging there, and there are all these moths flying around her, and it sounded beautiful and crazy. And you know, I was in for the roller coaster ride when I read Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Thankfully it was recommended to me by a very good friend of mine, and I took her advice at face value, thank goodness. And so I kind of figured, like, you know, I know Laini is really good at world building, and I trusted her from the get-go. So when I started reading this book and it turned out to be about Laszlo and not this blue girl, I was like, what's going on? I'm not used to reading male protagonist books. Everyone knows YA books have a plethora of female protagonists. They have to. It's one of the only places you can really get a lot of good female protagonists. Again, my opinion, not necessarily fact, but that's what I think. You know, the whole story was great from start to finish. Her magical system makes so much sense. Everything follows the rules it's supposed to follow. The legends in her world hold weight. You meet characters who are like, this person, the legend, blah blah, and it's the way they describe everything. Her word use that really sell you on all these ideas of this world that doesn't exist. I can't even say that I was disappointed with like the hetero romance in this. You know, she throws a lesbian couple in there, which kind of makes up for that a little bit. Not really, but you know, it is a little stereotypical with the romance part. You kind of know who's gonna get together. You kind of know what's gonna happen. You know, it's you know, it was great. It was really, really good. My only disappointment with the book falls with the ending. Endings are hard, and this one is setting us up for a second book, which is going to be called The Muse of Nightmares. I think it's coming out next year. I will always complain about an ending. They are the hardest thing to do in storytelling, so I guess I shouldn't really complain that much. I will say this, I will end my review on this, that Laini's beautiful writing, it will enchant you from page 1 to the end. The tropes that this follows, there are a lot. We have the chosen one, love triangle, broken family units, wrecking ball ending, beautiful first lines, obscure prologue, love at first sight, undiscovered powers, switching POV, buried memories, and unusual names. I actually, as much as I adore this book and this author, my rating is actually 9 out of 10. But I would read it again. I would totally read it again. I think I'm only giving it that because I hate it when, you know, we go through this whole book, we read 500 pages, and the next thing you know, there needs to be a sequel. I'm gonna read you guys my favorite part. So my favorite part, although there were a lot of parts of this that I really loved, it was really hard to pick a favorite part. But my favorite part was around page 221. It's when our two main characters meet for the first time, except they don't really realize that they're meeting because it's in dreams. So I'm gonna read it. He turned his head her way, and Sarai was so accustomed to her own acute non-being that it didn't even startle her. She only took it as an opportunity to see him better. She had seen so many closed eyes, and eyelids trembling with dreams, and lashes fluttering on cheeks, that she was transfixed by his open ones. They were so near. She could see, in this indulgence of sunlight, the patterns of his irises. They weren't solid gray, but filaments of 100 different grays and blues and pearls. And they looked like reflections of light wavering on water, with the softest sunburst of amber haloing his pupils. And every bit as avidly as she was looking at him, he was looking at... No, not her. He could only be looking through her. He had an air of one bewitched. There was a light in his eyes of absolute wonder. Witch light, she thought. And she suffered a deep pang of envy for whoever or whatever it was behind her that enthralled him so completely. For just a moment, she let herself pretend that it was her, that he was looking at her in that rapt way. It was only pretend, an instant of self-indulgence, like a phantom that interposes itself between lovers to feel what it is to be alive. All of this happened in a flutter of seconds, 3 at the very most. She stood quiet inside the remarkable dream and pretended the dreamer was captivated by her. She tracked the movement of his pupils. They seemed to trace the lines of her face and the band of black she'd painted across it. They dropped, only to rise once again at once from the sight of their slip-clad form and her immodest blue skin. He blushed, and sometime in those 3 seconds it had ceased being pretend. Sarai blushed too. She fell back a step, and the dreamer's eyes followed her. His eyes followed her. There was no one behind her. There was no one else at all. The whole dream shrank to a sphere around the pair of them, and there could be no question that the witchlight was for her, or that it was her he meant when he whispered with a vivid and tender enthrallment, "Who are you?" Reality came slamming down. She was seen! She was seen! Up in the citadel, Sarai jerked back. She snapped the tether of consciousness and cut them off loose, losing the dream in an instant. All the focus she'd poured into the single sentinel was shunted back into her physical body, and she stumbled and fell, gasping to her knees. It was impossible. In dreams, she was a phantom. He couldn't have seen her. Yet there was no question in her mind that he had. So that's my favorite part of the story. I loved that. It was so amazing. Again, it's like the first time they see each other, meet each other, so just the way that Laini describes, she's looking into his eyes, and they're all these different colors, and it's things you don't like think about when you're like looking at other people's eyes. But of course, these two fall in love right off the bat, and that's how we get that. For the age range, another one for 18 plus, only because there's a lot of rape mention in this book. A lot. And a lot of blood, and a lot of suffering. Some sexual situations. There isn't sex, kind of. There's like an after sex scene, kind of. And the two main characters, spoiler alert, they kind of get together, kind of. It's complicated. You just gotta read it. And they talk about, especially since this is from a male's perspective, he talks about like the curves of her body fitting in his hands, blah, blah, blah. It's just a little bit too explicit. So I rate this book 18 plus. I wish I could say it was 15, 16, 17, but this is where it lands, in my opinion. Again, that's just my opinion. It doesn't have to be a fact. If you feel comfortable giving this to a child, talk to them about rape. Talk to them about rape culture. Talk to them about how sometimes gods are terrible, awful beings, and you shouldn't trust them. Have that conversation with your teenagers anyway, because it's a good conversation to have, and then maybe you can let them read this. But yeah, that's what I give this book. 9 out of 10, 18 and older, and a lot of good stuff though. Laini, keep it coming, girl. I will plow through the next book. I plowed through this one. I think I finished it in 2 days. So yeah, that's it. Take care, YA nerds, and I guess I'll see you in 2 Tuesdays. Thursdays. I meant Thursdays. Peace out, YA nerds.